Good evening. Good evening to you. Mose, how are you? Good evening. This is the Butterland Liberia, broadcasting from Europe. This is your almost seven Paul Chulupe, who based in London. I will be joining, a few of my colleagues will be joining us soon. Linfa Guel, Martha, and the rest of the team. Welcome to Butterland. Mose, how are you? How's Morovia?
Oh yeah, Monrovia is good, Paul, and I'm so excited to be on the bottom line. After all of the hurdles, after all of our technical glitches, in my finance minister voice, when yeah, I learned this word from the finance minister Samuel Twe when he said civil servants are not taking pay for 2 months due to technical glitches. So I learned new words. So but Monrovia is a bit wet. We are preparing ourselves for the flood, and then because the issue of drainages are major problems in Liberia, especially in Monrovia. It will interest you to note that the president built an invisible park in Cinco. You know where IE used to have a practice ground, just
Yeah,
opposite the fish market, right?
yeah.
Um, the interesting thing about it is that when it is raining, nobody goes to the invisible park because the water takes over all of the environment. And that's because we have not done well with our erosion, with our drainage system in our country. It's a problem. If you were in Monrovia from the days of Samuel K. Doe before the war and then after the war, you will understand when you hear the word Sony Wen. You know what Sony Wen means,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you know where we can find Sony Wen. Yeah. So drainage is a problem in Central Monrovia, and then the population in Monrovia is not the usual population. Honestly, since the war from 1989 up until 2003, and then we had Ecomore, and then Chancellor had to leave Liberia. And then Monrovia has become a safe haven for residents of the interior. That is because some of the facilities that should be provided in the interiors are not provided. So people come from Nimba, they come from Lofa, come from as far as Grand Cru. They come to Monrovia to get some basic needs. For example, you want to do a land deed, you want to probate your land deed, you want to have a birth certificate, you want to have wedding certificate, and other documents. You have to come to Monrovia. When Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was president, uh, she tried her best to try to decentralize and bring something into play called the County Service Center. I still remember, but like you listen to the U.S. Ambassador Michael McCarthy, most of those service centers in the counties are being shut down because no funding to operate them. So it means that if you were in Bomi County, the closest county to Monrovia, you have to come to Monrovia to do a wedding certificate, to do a birth certificate. So these are
Wow.
some of the problems that we're facing. But generally, we are good
Great.
because we are still hoping on and waiting for the better to come. But Liberians were so amazed on yesterday when the finance minister Samuel Twe and the Commissioner General of the Liberia Maritime Authority appear on State Radio ELBC. Some of the revelations made by the two CDC government officials, it put the citizens against the government again. I
Oh,
know you will want to wonder how the finance minister will explain this when he tells the Liberian people that the CDC government has lifted 1 million people out of poverty in Liberia.
how?
That should be a concern. So he has not been able to explain how. In fact, he raised the number to 27 million, but then I think it was a mistake on his part. He corrected himself because the Liberian population is a little over 5 million, according to the latest survey done by Legis. Not only that, the finance minister also said that from the productive sector, the agriculture, the fishery, and other sectors, the CDC government in her second term, if they win, that's a condition. If they win,
Right.
they will be able to provide 500,000 jobs from the agricultural sector. But he still did not explain how it will be done.
Okay. Great, Moses. So let's welcome Linford and Mark on the show. Guys, welcome to the bottom line. Those are our panelists. Mark, how are you? Linford, how you doing?
Yeah,
Welcome
I'm
to the
doing
show.
fine, and I hope everything will be okay. But Moses, besides the final minister news, is there anything new that came out of the news recently in Monrovia?
Moses, did he hear Linford? He just wanted to update about the recent news in Liberia today. So for our audience.
So yes, a lot of things happening today. Like I said, I was just trying to update you. Yes, the two government officials from the CDC government were on radio on yesterday, but for today, a couple of things have come out. The National Elections Commission is continuing the exhibition process. There is a difficulty in people getting to even find their names at the various registration center. It's a problem. And internet problem is a difficult thing in Liberia. You know, Monserrato is divided into two areas, Lower Monserrato and Upper Monserrato. So out of the 17.
While the internet is playing out again in Liberia, as you talk about internet, here we go. This is the beauty of Liberia. Oh, Brother Mark, welcome to the program today. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing good. How are you?
We can't hear you, bro. You got to project.
Are you hearing me?
Yeah, it's you're
Yeah, so
far
I'm
away from
doing
your
good.
speaker.
How you guys doing?
Fine. It's like you're far away from your speaker, so you got to project your voice. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let me.
So, lean forward, Mark adjusting himself. Well, what's on the menu today?
Well, tonight we'll just be looking at some issues, especially our senator who made all of the promises. So we'll be looking at some of his promises and whether he's been really fulfilling those promises and whether he's up to time with it. And so, and there are some issues with him where he said things that were not true or that didn't play out to be true. So we'll be looking at some of those things.
Okay. Thank you. So it's good to be back here. And Brother Mark, how are you today, my man? How's Sweden?
Yeah,
Talk to
super.
us.
Just
Man, you kind of
extremely hot.
relaxed.
Yeah. Oh, my man. I'm going to
My
be
man,
the pageant of Paul.
that's the way you. It's like you
My man, like you.
go on
Yeah, I
flow
say it's kind
anyway.
of a hot in Sweden here. Yeah. So the weather just treating us bad here in Sweden, like 30 some more degrees. Yeah.
Okay.
Besides that,
So
everything is good on my end.
great. So While we wait for the radio station to join us, let's do a little bit of musical intro, 2 minutes, and then we can. Almost it is getting back. So most of the government internet seems to go wrong again. So, can you hear us? so
Uh,
so anyway,
I think the government internet is better than the two GSM company that we have here, because the government controls the fiber optic cable, as you may have heard some time ago. But
mhm,
again, I think the weather is not in our favor on this side of the world. So because of the weather, we will have a break in at some point in time. But generally, I can say that the government internet is better than the two other GSM that we have, the Lone Star and the Orange network.
right, right, okay, great. So Linford, I'll turn it over to you. Let's flow.
Okay, so like I said, tonight we'll be looking at the activities of our Montserrat County Senator Darius Dillon. Uh, this is the light that was ushered in by the Liberian people, for the fact that he proclaimed to be that light that will shine in the house of Senate and Representative.
Chief, can somebody mute themselves?
And so we'll just be looking at some of the things that he said and whether he still shines as a light. And so you guys can give your input. Number one, first, this is the man that promised to give his salary to the county people, the Montserrat County people of Montserrat County for development, or for what people they want to use it for. So whether he's living up to that, and there are several things that people have said about this senator, and he himself has been in the news recently, where he said he had a meeting, or President Salif inviting him for a meeting for them to all join and support the CPP. So we'll look at some of these things tonight. I don't know much about him because I've not been with him all the time. But those are some of the things we'll be looking at, gentlemen.
Okay. So if it is, and if you can hear, I think the case in the background, is there a way that you could talk to them to make the adjustment over there so that the case can be coming through? While we're going to look
Okay.
into the, we'll learn today that the former Chief Justice had been what a charge. It was all on the news today. So it's something that we need to look at. I mean, this case been going on since February when the murder thing took place, and usually when a murder take place or incident like that, police take a week to charge somebody. But since that time to this date, I think it's long. It's something that we'll be looking forward to see what it is. Moses and Mark, I don't know if you guys have something to say about what Linford said and about Gloria Mosuska, that the government have charged her with three other persons for murder. So before we get into our main topic, what your take on this?
Charge her for murdering her own daughter or stepdaughter.
Yes. So Moses, you want to bring her up to date to that news that have been broken
Okay.
about Gloria Mosuska?
Thank you, Paul. Paul, I'd like to say thank you because in Liberia, one of the first media institutions to have touched on the Gloria Musu's case with her late daughter, Shalom Musu, was Red Power FM, because the proximity is, I can say, 3 or 4 meters away. The location of Red Power and where Madam Scott resides is just 3 or 4 meters away. So when the incident occurred, we were one of few group of people that arrived on the scene even before the police.
Right.
But if you look at the home of Madam Scott, you will know that it is very much tight when it comes to security. It is not an easy thing to have an intruder going into Madam Scott's house from the way it is being constructed. It's a flat top roof, and beyond that, it's in a fence, and beyond that, the house itself has a gate that you cannot easily enter. So from the explanation from Madam Scott and from the investigation done by the police with the private security officers and other occupants of the house, and from where Shalom Musu's body was found, then you know that whatever happened in Gloria Musu's cat house was internally done. That's the first thing that should be established. What we have gathered, we are not trying to impede the work of the police, but what we have gathered is that in time past, there are 2 daughters that have been with Gloria Musu's cat in her house. Her biological daughter and her brother's daughter. And these 2 girls have always been into some confusion. And every time they have a confusion, it ends up into a fight. Sometimes they throw objects at each other. We have investigated, we have talked to residents in the vicinity, and they have been able to tell us that this was not the first time that the 2 girls have been engaged into a fight. In fact, it was Red Power that made the police to get to understand that 2 women been fighting in that house before. So credit have to come to us for that. We are not trying to jump the gun, but if you look at the investigation that is done, you will know that something is wrong, and we all need to wait for the police on tomorrow at 11 o'clock at the Ministry of Information. The police will issue a statement, and there is a likelihood that the former Chief Justice and 3 other persons will be formally charged on tomorrow. But before that, there has been some disagreements between the police authorities and the Ministry of Justice on the basis of the release of the final report into the police investigation. At one point in time, the police called a press conference and wanted to release a report. The Minister of Justice, the Attorney General of Liberia, Councilor Frank Musa Dean, and then he ordered the police to halt whatever plan they had to release any report. So that raised some suspicion in the crowd, in the public. But then again, structural-wise, you will know that the Liberian National Police is under the Ministry of Justice as per the function of government. So that press conference that the police attempted to call did not materialize. So we are all on ears. We are waiting for what will happen tomorrow. But even before tomorrow, there have been leaked information from the police authorities that the former Chief Justice and 3 other persons have already been charged with 3 separate crimes.
Okay. Thank you for the update. But before Mark comes in, we've been hearing other news that I don't know whether it's true from Liberia that the former vice president have been flown away from Liberia for some medical. Is that news on the ground, or is just speculation that we see on the social media?
As it stands, authorities of the Unity Party that we have spoken to, they have refused to confirm that the former Vice President Joseph Newman Boakai, the ambassador, was flown to Ghana and is on his way to America for treatment.
Okay.
But this, the Facebook and the internet is full of information, and those information will have to be verified. But yes, we have gotten the information that the former vice president is out of the country, and he may have gone to check on his health situation again. But what is interesting to note here is that whenever the former vice president has got some medical issue, the first place he will go will be the ELWA hospital, because he's a good friend to the Samaritan Press family, and so the ELWA hospital is a famous hospital where he goes to take treatment. But we are so puzzled that at this point he did not go to the ELWA hospital, but we got information that he has left the country and that he was in Ghana undergoing treatment and is likely to be transferred to the United States for the major checkup.
Okay. Thank you for the update. Thank you so much, Brother Mark. It's good. Welcome.
Yeah, Brother Paul. I mean,
Yeah.
it's good to be with you guys. And it just, I don't know the weather condition on your end, but it's just extremely hot here, my man. So you can see that I'm a little bit beat up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tired from
Well,
the heat. But
as we
anyway,
get into the discussion, you'll be okay. So
yeah.
what we're going to talk about today actually is there are few things that have been circulating, and one of the things was Darius Dillon have accused Ellen Johnson Sirleaf of putting the CPP ticket together, and after he said that on the Spoon Network, the next day, Chairman Birite came out to debunk the statement. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Why is it that, and we could play the statement from Chairman Birite, and then we can discuss it. We're looking at also there was a breaking news yesterday on one of the big cap platform. SKTV broke this news yesterday, and about the former vice president being one of the warlords in Liberia. It's something we played that for the listening audience to hear it. It was the news was broken yesterday by SKTV. They have all their details and they went live yesterday on this. So the question is, if everyone who we look up to for this war and economic chronicle in Liberia, all our big people, will Liberia ever have the war and economic chronicle when everyone is part and parcel of the war? So that is the question for discussion tonight. Will we ever see that day happening in Liberia? If you look at all of the big actors, the senator, representative, president, they all had their hand in the civil war. Will Liberia ever face that war economic crown code that we've all been yearning for? And that is the question for tonight. Brother Mark, what your take
Yeah.
on this?
Yeah, Brother Paul, I mean, as stated before on a few other shows, I mean, when it comes to this issue of war and economic crime code, we kind of heavily rely on the international community to have helped us in the undertaking regarding the war and economic, let's say the war crime code, right? But having said that, I mean, all politicians are part and parcel of apart from Mr. Cummings and Charlene, right? You find very few that are part and parcel of the War and Economic Crime Code. So it's going to be difficult for us to bring about the War Crime Code and talk less about the Economic Crime Code, because had it been done from the initial stage, right after Taylor left power, that would have been a good starting point. But 12 years down the line and still yet this thing has not been accomplished. So it tells us that, I mean, there are a lot of hills, to climb. So there's a possibility that we could, and there's probability that we could not. Okay, we wouldn't have the war crime code, because as time passes by, you got a new generation and all the key stockholders, I mean, the participants, for example, from different warring factions, they are getting old at the end of the day. So who's going to prosecute who? So it's difficult, Brother Paul.
Yeah. So I'm going to play that clip where SKTV broke yesterday by Sekou Kone, that they have information, and I think Moses, why here you can chime me. This is troubling, and we're looking at if one of the three could be president tomorrow, the Wia, Boyka, or Cummings or Tehran. But it seems to me that everyone kind of have the little hand in the civil war. So I will play this for our listening audience, and then Moses, you can chime in too. Listen to this from SKTV.
The former vice president, Joseph Nima Boakai, is reportedly a warlord. What are you hearing me clearly? The Joseph Nima Boakai was a founding chairman of one of the warring factions in Liberia. This may sound big to a lot of people. It may sound strange to a lot of people, but some people know. We'll talk about the detail. That Joseph Nima Boakai, that he is a warlord, a founding chairman of one of the warring factions in the Liberian Civil War. You see, Mabel, I dropped straight because Mabel was looking at my face, but when I said this, his eye dropped. Somebody said not true. Somebody said not true. But the information is that, when the war started, when Prince Johnson there and then Charles Taylor came with the war, we had about one rebel group called National Patriotic Front. And later on, it went up. Prince Johnson then split after when they entered Nimba, after when they killed a lot of people already. Because of power and control, because of disagreement, Prince Johnson then split. And Prince Johnson then became the NPFL, Independent National Patriotic Front. So when the war went further, a lot of people got driven out of the country. People kind of regroup. That's how the likes of Ulimbo, Alaji Kurma then got involved. They say they were coming to bury their parents that were killed. That's how Ulimbo came about. And some Crown people, some Mandingo people. Ulimbo was predominantly Mandingo and Crown. No. Cyrus, you guys, yeah.
Okay. What
Okay.
Sekou Cornell was saying that this group called the Lofa Defense Force. That force, that's the one. Former vice president was the founding chairperson of that force. And this is something that nobody knew about in the country. They broke it news yesterday and said some article that were written by Front Page Africa in 2017, July 26, 2017. That article is also there. So they came out with the detail yesterday. So the question is, Unity Party being one of the biggest party, and we've been hearing that when they take over, they will bring the war and economic crown court. So in Liberia, we have the thing they say when you pull rope pull butch. The question is, will we ever have the war and economic crown court in Liberia when everyone seems to be like their hand was in this war?
I'm up now, Paul. So after listening to Brother Sekou, right? I know you are going to Moses, but let me just, come in with this. For example, I think for the past, let's say, been like 5 months now, when this American, how they call it, top diplomat went to Liberia, right? And talk about the idea of the war crime code. Now, exactly like Sekou said, the INPFL is a breakaway from the National Patriotic Front. So, and who financed the INPFL? If we want to get to the root cause of the war and the war crime code, who financed them? How did Prince Johnson get to Central Monrovia, occupying the Mama Point area? The Americans are also involved. So the radio Prince Johnson were operating, weapons that were given to Prince Johnson. How did he get the weapons? The American also are complicit in a war crime court. So if you go into the whole genesis of the NPFL training into Libya, who financed them training into Libya, how the Charles Taylor Brick prison in Boston. So these are things investigation that need to be carried on from Taylor was in prison in Massachusetts, and it's a federal prison. How did Taylor Brick prison end up in Libya? So the whole thing is kind of a mix up here, Paul. The only time this thing going to be done properly, except we get, independent body that will come, that will not be taken side with either trying to protect America's interests, and when turn against America, when Prince Johnson is no longer the puppet, then they know about war crime court. But the America, first of all, the war in Liberia shouldn't have taken place in the first place with just 200 Marines.
Right. So, but Brother Margo, the war took place already, and Liberians are yearning for this war and economic crown court. So, the question, will it ever come to Liberia? Will it ever come? Because the lawmakers, the people who have the right to bring it, they all seem to have their hand in the cookie jar. How will we ever get this?
Yeah, well, but Brother Paul, I think Brother Collie can attest to that. First of all, they said it should go through the lawmakers and then get to the president for signing, okay? And who was the president at that time? Well, one of the architect herself, Ellen Johnson. So I don't see the war crime court, ever coming to take place in Liberia. Yeah, I don't see it that easy.
Right. Brother Moses, what your take on this from where you call from?
Thank you. I've been licking my lips when you guys were having the conversation. Maybe you did not see me through the camera, but My lips were itching to lift up some things.
Right.
But the truth is that I am one of those who stay in Liberia for the entire phase of the Liberian Civil War. We can say phase 1 and phase 2. I am one of the victims of the war in Liberia. At my age, I'm not far from 50 years now. So that means I got some good understanding about the Liberian civil crisis. So if you were around 30 years old, you will not have access to electricity because, of course, the war will affect you.
Yeah.
Because we fought the war for around 14 to 15 years. But I want to go back a little bit before I come to the Buakai scenario where it is believed that he was chair of the low-fat defense force. What is the difference between Liberia and Sierra Leone? What is the difference between Liberia and Rwanda? My understanding is that these three countries fought civil war. In Sierra Leone, you have a situation where no warlord was ever given a chance to vie for public office. In Sierra Leone, the records are there and they are very clear. Not even in Rwanda. In Rwanda, in fact, it became a law for you to even ask somebody for their tribe, whether they were Hutus or Tutsis. That was forbidden in Rwanda, or it is forbidden. But on the contrary, in Liberia, we chose to glorify warlords. We chose to reward warlords. I'm sitting in my corner, Paul, and I'm imagining how Prince Johnson became senator for 18 years and will also be senator and will bear the same number of years like William V.S. Tubman did for 27 years.
Yeah.
I am sitting in my corner. I'm wondering how George Bole of the LPC became a representative. I'm disappointed today because Anahaji G.V. Kroma is dead. My disappointment is that I've always cried for the blood of more than 250,000 people in our country. I still remember the Lutheran Church massacre. I still remember the Dupro Road massacre, the Maher massacre, the Maher River. I still remember the Pearl River massacre. Look, if I, well, I don't know why you brought this up, but I will have to just let it out of my inside part. But we have not done well for our country. To be honest with you, and Ellen Johnson Sirleaf needs to take the greater responsibility. That is because she failed to implement the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report or recommendations, because that recommendations bound her from taking part in Liberian politics for 30 years. That means at that point, she should have retired from politics.
That's right.
Do you know what it means for a rebel general to come and tell the Liberian people at the TRC here?
Oh man.
Look, brother Paul.
Yeah, it's the internet frozen, so he will be back. It's the rain, it's they having serious rain
And
in
then,
Liberia.
yes,
he's back.
We are struggling with our own Liberian thing. There's a Liberian internet.
Yeah.
But truth be told,
Yeah.
the 54th legislature, about 47 of them from the lower house, I mean the House of Representatives, they signed a resolution approving the establishment of a war crimes court in Liberia. That document is before the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Dr. Buffer Chambers. He has failed to put that document on the floor for discussion so that it can be challenged.
Right.
Because, you know, to have such a court established, the legislature, both houses need to agree. They need to pass a law. So sometimes you don't blame the president. But here is my disappointment. The current government, the CDC-led government, headed by our own so-called, paraded in the corridors of our body politics that they wanted war crimes code. I know sometimes you heard Moba Molu, Achi Sano, and Roland Mesco, Jefferson Koji, all these guys were parading with caskets around, and they were asking the Ellen government to give account of the death of 250,000 people in the Liberian Civil War. So our question is, what is happening now? It's been nearly 6 years since the CDC government came to power. What have they done with the issue of the war crimes code? Have they gotten to the point where they have spoken with their leaders and said, no, we promised the Liberian people that we'll do this. Can we fulfill this promise? Now, I am not aware of any piece of information that linked Ambassador Joseph Human Boakai to the Lofa Defense Force. What I know is that the former Minister of Youth and Sports, Francois Massekwe, a son of Lofa County from Kolahun District, was the chairperson and head of the Lofa Defense Force. In fact, he represented that group during a peace hearing. I'm not aware, and if I know, so the SKTV and other people who may have this information that we do not have, we are asking them to share with us, because I am part of a global network for justice. In Liberia, I'm one of few journalists that have spoken about war crimes code in Liberia free of charge. I've never asked for money. That's the reason why some international groups have been talking to me. So to cut the long matter short, the answer is yes. We can have war crimes code in Liberia, and though we may be late, but it is better late than never. It is Zana Benedict Cummings. It is Zana Benedict Cummings. It's one man that we can trust. Mr. Cummings is one man that we can trust when it comes to the war crimes code. Ambassador Joseph Human Boakai is another man that we can trust. Councillor Tiewon Gonglo, though he may not have the population, but Tiewon Gonglo is another man that we can also trust when it comes to people who can afford to help us to have the court established. Because the bottom line is, and you know what? I refer to the bottom line because this is the name of the program, the bottom line.
Exactly.
The bottom line is that we want to curtail the culture of impunity. How do we eliminate the culture of impunity in Liberia? Because if this is not done, if people are not penalized for what they did in the Liberian Civil War, I can tell you, no matter how long it takes, Another group of people will get in the bushes when they feel disenchanted, and they will bring war again. And the message will be that Prince Johnson and other people brought war to Liberia and they were not punished. I want to stop here for now.
Right. Before Mark, I think you need to come in. Then we'll get most of the opening line. Let's hear from our audience too. If
Yeah,
because the kind of news that is coming from everywhere, will we
yeah,
ever have this World Economic Crime Code? And if we'll have the World Economic Crime Code, this is election year. People have made a lot of promises to Liberians and they have not fulfilled their promise. And this is the time that they need to ask those who are vying for representatives, senators, presidency, will they bring the war and economic crime code to Liberia? And I know you're a strong supporter of Mr. Alexander B. Cummings. Talk to us about this war and economic crime code. Will Cummings bring it to Liberia? Will Omer Burka bring it to Liberia? Will Taiwan bring it to Liberia? We want to hear you. Then we can open the line for our audience to also chime in.
yeah, Paul. I strongly believe that, Mr. Cummings can bring about, we need to take it one at a time because we don't have the infrastructure in place to go after the two of them at the same time. So we take it one at a time. We go from the war crime code, then later on the economic crime code follow. But if you want to go after the both of them at the same time, then you need a lot of judges, which I don't believe that. Liberia, we are there now to provide the legal mind to go about because you're talking about dozens of cases. You are going to open can of worms, not only just in the border of Liberia, but also externally also, where the whole thing originated from. Who are the participants? For example, we got Taylor sitting in The Hague now, but there are other people involved, other international partners too that are involved. So we take it one at a time. The War Crime Court. Then, if the dust settle down, then we focus on the Economic Crime Court. But as I said, Paul, we don't have the infrastructure. First of all, look at what happened during the 12 year of Madame Seliv. Now, like what Brother Moses was talking about, other people will still have the courage to go in the bush, you understand, or in the bushes and whatsoever to be brave. That because lesson was not learned, right? But you had 12 years to fund the national security apparatus, from the military to the police to the, how they call it, you name it. And up to now, Brother Moses, you live in a country, I don't believe we have even up to 15,000 manpower, okay, to uphold the peace in our country. The military, how many manpower is the military? I don't believe that there are even 10,000.
Let me speak to that. Let me speak to that. Our strength comes to security is improving. The police is training additional group of people as we get towards the election. Besides that, the AFL has done some recruitment. So the strength of the security is more than 15,000 because we have the joint security. That means you have the immigration, you have the police, you have the drug enforcement agency, you have the Monrovia City Police, you have the AFL, yes, and other people. But there was something I wanted to say. There was something I had on mind that it just slipped off. There are countries around the world that have made commitment to Liberia that they will sponsor any desire to establish war crimes court in Liberia. Now, our international friends are aware that our security situation in Liberia and the West African region, or the Mana River region, is fragile. And so because of that, they will put some mechanism in place that some of the major players in our conflict could be taken from here to Rwanda or even in The Hague so that they could be judged there. So the only problem that we were being confronted with is for our legislators
Exactly.
and our
The
executive branch
willpower.
of government
No,
to agree. They need to have a political will, the willpower to say, yes, we want this thing, and then they put it into law.
Brother Paul,
That's the
there are
only
other
problem.
things.
So those who
Brother
bring
Paul,
the
there are
quote,
other things.
they are aware of
There are
our
other things
situation.
that we have to
They
take
are going
into
to impeach
consideration
us.
here. First of all, looking at, do you know? Are you aware that there is another national security concern in the country, most especially when it comes to what is happening in Grand Jide with the Burkinabe crossing over to Grand Jide? So, like Brother Mose alluded to, that, oh yeah, the security is improving. If the security was improving, the immigration, more especially the Bureau of Immigration, if they were improving, you won't have the amount of influx that cross the border from the Ivory Coast into Grand Jide, which is going to be a national security, issue as time passes by. A lot of Liberia now aware of what is happening in Grand Jide or in the southeast for that matter.
So I would like for Moses, because this thing, I mean, we all gone through the war.
Paul,
Yeah.
Paul, if you want me to speak to that, with the issue of Grand Jide, I can speak to that because, peace be to his ashes, I have my reporter from Grand Jide, from Zweju to be specific. He died. His name is Johnson Shate. He died already. He was my correspondent from Grand Jide for this Rare Power. All of the information we have gathered, the Burkina bees have been coming in from Ivory Coast. They have been planting live trees. They have been making farms on Liberian land, and they did not come all by themselves. They've been having conversation with the locals. The chiefs in those areas gave these people land to farm. And you know, the Burkina bees are strong people in terms of agriculture. They have not been violent since they came. They have tried to settle because they have not found peace in the Ivory Coast. So they have found peace in Liberia. So what our government has failed to do is to have a track record of these people, is to organize them and then monitor them. This is what our government has failed to do. But the last time I checked, there was confusion between the Burkina bees that are farming in Liberia through the Grand Jide era and the locals. And that came about because of hunting business. Some of the locals are going to hunt in the Burkina bees terrain and they were denied. And that has to draw the attention of the joint security.
And most of that has
but generally,
to do with the
I don't think this is a major security threat.
Okay, but that has something to do with national security issue, because for the past, like the war crime court, you cannot have the war crime court taking place if you don't have the security infrastructure in place. It's just impossible. You first of all have to have the security in place before you start going up. Okay, what about if people are found guilty? How many prisons you got across the country? For example, beside the Saw Beach, or what you have in, how they call it, what's the county again? Beleyala.
So
is it intact?
Maurice,
Paul, I can see that you've been away from Liberia for a very long time. There is no Beleyala prison again. It has been
no more. That's Mark. No
else.
more Beleyala prison. So
exactly, yeah. Mose. It's just.
So, Brother Moses actually answered that question, because you have international partners who waiting to pump in money into that country for that. But the willpower is the willpower. People have promised, and then when it comes to power, they don't deliver. They don't fulfill their promise. And this is where bothering me. How come every time people run on this thing that, yes, we'll bring this when they get into office, it's deadbeat.
Yeah, Paul, that's campaign rhetorics. that campaign rhetorics, and most especially populist government, they always come to power on a rare meat that the people need to feed on. So after saying, doing campaign on these kind of issues, they in most cases they don't normally deliver. Most populist government around the world, they don't normally deliver. Once election time coming again, you'll find out they'll feed on the same red meat, for example, or war crime. Now, not war crime, it's economic crime code. But as time passes by, we yet to see until it happen. For me, I got strong.
Paul, I got a suggestion, Paul.
Okay.
Yeah, go on.
I got a suggestion, and my suggestion is for Liberians to have a new model of politicking, and that is to hold politicians by their word through a written document. Now, how do I envision this? My suggestion is that politicians who want to be president for Liberia need to make a commitment through a written document of itemized things that they will do. And those things should go along with timeline. For example, if a presidential aspirant like Mr. Alexander Cummings or Joseph Boakai tell the Liberian people, I will make sure there will be war crimes code, he should write it on paper and tell us that in 6 months' time, in 9 months' time, or in 1 year time, I will make sure war crimes code will be in Liberia. And then that document is taken to the court and probated. So that after 9 months, if we don't have the war crimes code, then Liberians have the right to sue him. If possible, ask him to leave office on the basis of what he promised. But most politicians in Liberia, the reason why they do not fulfill their promises is because they have not been checkmated. They have not been held accountable for what they say. We allow politicians to tell us they will build bridges where there is no river. They will build schools where we already have schools. They will bring us food when we know they do not even have agricultural farm. So when you have these people writing those things that they want to do for us on paper with a timeline, and then we probate this thing, and then we can hold them accountable. This will help to reduce the lies that come from politicians participating in Liberian electoral process.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but
all across
that's
the
the same as
representatives, senators, presidential candidates, they definitely need to do it because we need to end impunity in that country. So that's a good suggestion though. And this is the power of the microphone. I think these are the things that we need to be talking about to get the people just shouldn't come to them and say, oh, I will build bridge. Well, you know, there's no bridge there. You're going to build bridge. And you know, there's school there. You want to build this mansion, school. I don't know how they will call it. Lie to people. And then when they get into office, instead of them being the servant, the people become the servant. So they really need to sign contract with the people. Honestly, I agree with you on this, Moses. Ma, what do you think? I think it's a great suggestion from Moses.
But Paul, it's the same as campaign messaging. It's
Yeah,
the same.
so they campaign. You know, the society will come from. We all know the society. Some they come with money. They come with all sort of things. They lie to people when they get there. When they get their $40,000 or $80,000 car, their glass, the car window is tinted dark. They don't see them anymore. People have to go to their homes to become beggars. All of this. So after election, the people become servant. And then, so I don't know. I think it would be good for Brother Moses to open a line. Let people come to be and let's hear what they say. And the question is,
so we can open the lines from our end.
Yeah, will we ever have war and economic crime code? And what do people think? What should they? how they engage their politician when it comes to them. Those are things
You know,
that at some
you,
point Liberia have to be free, like Rwanda and other countries. We cannot keep going. They seem all bad people that they harm to all. We see them, we get ignored, we can't do anything about it, and they're making laws on our behalf. It's just unfair.
the question you asked about Omen Barker that was broken on the SKTV, right? Say what you want to say about the former VP, but I mean, referring to him as a warlord, I think that was way over the top because we know who warlord are. You know where I stand when it comes to VP Barker and Mr. Cummings, and you know that Mr. Cummings corner 1 billion time, but referring to the old man as a warlord, like what Brother Moses said, if they have some documentation that the old man was like in a position like Prince Johnson or like butt naked or like I think Oscar Cooper, one of them, or like how you call this other old man again from Grand Judah, former representative, right, from Grand Judah. You just call her name again, Moses?
Who, George Bully?
You
George
mean George
Bulley, you
Bulley?
understand?
He
I
still
don't believe
he
Omer
represented
Barker
it as we
ever
speak.
served in that capacity as a warlord, like what the SKTV was alluding to. So we
I
may,
think
preach the politics, but we have to be careful too as to how we want to demonize somebody. For me, Omer Barker is supposed to be somebody thinking about his health and being retired, enjoying his retirement. But to demonize an old man to that level, yeah, I'm not in support of that.
well, so we're not in defense of SKTV. They broke their news yesterday and they said he's a former phony chairperson. So they will have to face that and share it with all of the information they get and share with all the networks so we can see the truth in it. But it was something that they broke yesterday.
Francois Massacre, a lot of people knew that he was, I think, the chairman for the Lofa Defense Force.
The phony chairman, that was
Yeah.
SKTV, the phony chairman, then Massacre took over from him according to their report. So it's something that we can, but that is not the case. The problem here is if everybody hand is in the war, will we ever have war economic crime court? That's the question. Who do we trust to bring the thing to our end? Brother Moses, you can open a line. Who do we trust at this time? CDC promised us, they didn't deliver. Who do we trust at this time?
Then you don't make a deal with the devil.
So just to open the telephone lines, I need to announce the numbers. The numbers are 0776 82 4003 0555 5148. So if you are in Liberia and you are listening to Rare Power now, the program is The Bottom Line. We have a call, Paul. If you're listening, we have a call. Good evening. Yes, just tell us your name and where you call from. John Tama from Logan Town. Okay. Okay.
My first time to visit your convention, but it's interesting. I know I'm interested. I'll be visiting every day and night now. The first of all was as two people said, this great person who said one kind was a chairman of local defense force. I agreed to two people to bring this information. The photos of audio. If you get photos of the audio, let's get changing. Right. But economic growth, war growth, we 100% agree in this country because we have been far watching this country. But I'm not too sure. My father, He the one that to agree with you that Mr. Kunji become president in this country. I am 100% to become president, but to say you will be one president, I disagree. Because my energy is involved. She's involved. He does Nigeria. He killing the wrong people. He damaging us. I was 29 years old when we came in this country.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have another call. Paul, did you hear him?
Yeah.
Hello. Yes, good evening. Go ahead, we're listening.
Moses, I want to say, Putin is discuss war and economic Nigeria, but the citizen aspect is full for us. Most of our leaders, those are in power today, they is anticipated what will be called either war crime or the economic crime. So when it comes to that aspect, I will let you later, the executive, the affairs, in that aspect. So what question in that position but no president is strong enough to support war, crime, and economic crime. They must support one and not the both of them. Trust me.
Okay. Thank you. So we got two calls there, and the two callers, they don't agree that any of the presidential aspirant can bring the war crimes. But we still have another call. I
Okay.
hope, Paul, you were following the conversation.
Yes, I am.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Thank you. This is Robert Nwako from District 17.
Robert Nwako from District 17.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
No, Robert, we want to know what part of District 17 you're calling from.
Lower Virginia, the Hotel Africa Road.
Okay, Hotel Africa Road. Paul can remember where the Unity Conference Center is, where the famous OAU conference was held. You can remember?
You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Okay, go ahead.
Sure for this topic. And mostly, I don't know how many times we have not talked and how long we will keep talking before even this government will come to power when they were in opposition. Is it not true that this woman were all around here in the mud, in the rain, in whatsoever, that the water must come? Yes, we were saying, yes, that's good, they must come. But something that touched me, because when the president at the time, Senator, before taking over, he said something, there was a question posed to him when it comes to the protection of the president at the time and now former president, Mark Ellen. And he said he was going to protect the president, the former president. You think if you make such a statement afterward you take power, you'll be brave again to come out, you say you want to prosecute the president? No, it will not work. And they were all here telling Jackson up and down that people must be prosecuted because they brought war. We all support that. Now that the mantle of authority is in your head, what is going on? You add another one to impose the economic crime court that will be established. I can tell you for sure, if even anybody take over to say you're going to fight the two together, I find it very difficult. But if we are sincere as Liberians, the president, no one person can do it. No one person can do it. If all of us Liberians can put together and say, this is what we want. This is what we must see happening in this country. That's the only way. But to say the president will come and say, I will do this, one person, I just challenge it can't work, but we all will work together. And this is what I have in mind. Now, Joseph Waka, Mr. Kumio, Mr. Bongo, all of them person will come to say the sitting president. They take the presidency. They tell you all the Google things, including Mr. Senior. They take all the Google things. They tell you to all we're hearing it. You think they did what it? will say, you put the money you need there to do the right thing for the business part, it will never work. And so all those people that live with this war, we were part and parcel of this war. So now you put on somebody, so now you go and say this person was there. So now you even go and tell the person, yeah, I support. In our mouth, we support it. With the gold, we support it. With the paper, we support it. All the other people, we all talking it. You think that we're not part of it? We are. Okay. Start excusing now and look at what we will do as Liberians. That is as said. Please, it's not one person that's going to do it. It's not the president. It's not just the vice president. But every one of us must be able to say, yes, we're ready for it. That's the only way it will work. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Paul, did you hear him?
I heard him loud and clear. It's everyone seems
Paul,
to be
did you
on
hear
it.
him, brother?
Yes, we heard the colors. You want to, anyway, Brother Mark, from what you heard from the callers, this is you alluded to the fact that they must have one to start with and then the other follow. And you heard all the callers. And up to this day, I don't think the callers believe that any one of those politicians will bring this thing to an end. What you think?
No, for me, I strongly believe, I mean, like Mr. Cummings or Tewon Gonglo, yes. One at a time, yes, but not both at the same time. Because one of the problems here is the infrastructure. You don't have the infrastructure, Brother Paul. If you had the infrastructure, then you could pursue the both of them at the same time. But you don't have the infrastructure. First of all, judges, you need to pay judges, you need to pay the security apparatus, you need to have things intact in order for you to go after these things. It's the ordinary Liberian man just talking about it like it's that easy, but it's not easy on the paper. There are a lot of documentation how to be done.
Brother Margo, this thing was done in Sierra Leone. It was done in South Africa. You know, they had the Palawa whole thing. People who, when they apologize, they confess, they beg people and ask for forgiveness. Those who went to the extreme, it happened in Sierra Leone. And
Brother Paul.
So if you have all and then you having funding from the international community that willing to pump money into this. Remember too, neighboring countries will be waiting to take some of those perpetrators if they found guilty out of Liberia. So
Brother Paul, it's like one of my famous, professor always says that Omen Jeffrey Sachs, right? And he's like, it's like talking about a man, how they call it, a case without the man self having something to say in it. So in Sierra Leone, the Sierra Leone, they were also participants. You understand? They were not just witness, they were also participants. They put their demand and their demand was respected. In the case of Rwanda, the Rwandese, they made their demand and their demand was respected. But in the case of Liberia, the Liberians were on the fence and they were only bringing all these same, how to call it, duo and actors. Their will prevail over the Liberian people. So that is not the same thing in Sierra Leone. That is not the same thing in Rwanda. The Liberian people were never respected. So that's a difference, Brother Paul.
Okay. So mostly from what you heard from the callers, what your take on this?
Moses is busy.
Yeah, so we're still awaiting calls, but we don't have calls yet. If you ask me to give my view, I will say to you that there is still hope for Liberians. And the hope is that we have to continue to change lawmakers and change presidents until the right thing is done. You know, I happen to be one of those who helped President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf during the Vision 2030 exercise We went across this country in 15 counties. When I used to work for John Colley, we did consultation. Liberians wanted a reduction in the tenure of the presidency, and then they wanted a reduction in the tenure of the senators and the representative. They opted for the president tenure being 4 years instead of 6 years. Likewise, the representatives. And then for the senators, they wanted it to be 6 years instead of 9 years. They also wanted to teach one national language. And that language that was the most popular one was the Pele. The Pele was being widely spoken in at least 11 counties. They also talk about having election for superintendents and chiefs and other people. And all of these fine ideas, the president of Liberia, by then Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, did not put this thing into fruition. We also did consultation on the issue of the War Crimes Code. And then it was intended to ensure that the TRC recommendations were implemented. But we are still hopeful. And this should be one of the reasons why Liberians should hold politicians accountable. At this point, with 4 months left for the election on October 10, politicians will be coming out to tell Liberian people to vote for them. Whether you for CPP, whether you for LPP, Tiawan Gonglo's party, whether you from Unity Party, whether you from CDC, the bottom line is that you want to lead the people of Liberia. So there has to be some commitment made to the people of Liberia. And this time around, it should not be a verbal commitment. You need a commitment that puts you on the spot. Because, you know, Liberian man has a tendency to say, my mouth is not Bible. You know that, right? But if you have something written with a signature on the he becomes embarrassed. Oh yes, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But
yeah.
Mike knows exactly when Charlotte went to peace conferences, he would say all kinds of things. So we have another call. Can I put a call in?
Okay, take the call, Moses.
Paul, we have a call. We have a call. Hello.
Yeah, okay. Something I left out.
Okay.
You expressed something when this current government, when they took over something, they did that. I've been thinking over whether it was the right thing to do. Immediately, the president was sworn in, and the president asked the minister that worked for my Ellen regime, was saying that all of them throwing over whatsoever thing that they have in their hands to the HR of that minister or whatsoever area, the proper minister go and HR took over. You experience that? You can remember? You think, if you do such a thing, you will able to persecute the people after just getting out that in a way, you don't even check on them, you can ever do it. I think that's one of the mistakes that we can make in the country. Before you can get the man out, study the man, and know what the man is doing, all that time the man been working there, you don't even persecute them, you don't even check on them, you don't even get record on them, don't know what record was not properly made. How can you persecute somebody that you don't really get on what record from? It is not just possible. So I think this is some of the mistakes I want to continue making in this country. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So Paul, we're listening. Paul, you got the caller, right?
Yes.
And Brother Moses, before I lost my thought, right? One of the way Liberian people can hold elected officials accountable is that one term. If this person come to power, you Moses Colley come to power, for example, and you promised the Liberian people X, Y, Z, and you did not fulfill in the first 3 years, Liberian people should show you the way out, because you promised us X, Y, Z, and you did not even say try to implement or start the process. So for that reason, we are showing you the way, the door out. I think that's another way of holding people accountable too. Elected official, starting with the president. The next president that come to power, once the TRC, fact finding is not being implemented or starting the process, you show the be a Mr. Cummings, show him the door. And you'll be sending a strong message.
Great. We've got uh 10 more minutes. So what we decided to do for our listening audience, every week we come on, we're going to play the message for the political leaders that are running. So when Moses come back on the for the remaining time, we'll play Mr. Cummings 5 pedals. It lasts about 7 minutes. So while we await the guys to join us, okay, Steve Moses. It's technology in Liberia.
Paul, just a few seconds. Was
Oh,
it Moses I was supposed to do
yeah,
today, right?
Moses. Yeah, it's good. We got a few more minutes, but what we tend to do for every time we comes on before we leave, we play the vision of each of those candidates that's running. So today we'll start with Mr. Cummings. Next week we'll do Breakout. The following week we'll do Taiwan, so people can listen to because there's a lot of noise. People are not listening. They follow here, they say, so we want to take this time to play some of their what they saying, what they will how to deliver Liberia to the people. So the few minutes we get before we go on, I just want to play this little thing from Mr. Cummings.
There are 5 priorities we have, and we call that the what's. And then there are 5 things we call the how we'll do it. And those priorities are as follows. Our first priority is infrastructure. Simply put, it's electricity, it's roads, it's water, and it's internet and cell phone connectivity across Liberia. We have to invest in infrastructure. That is the top priority.
I think
That's
we
the
are having a
basis
little
on which
problem with
we
the
can
weather.
and will do
I
everything
think so.
else. The second priority for us is job creation. There are too many unemployed, underemployed, and unemployable Liberians. The unemployment rate is over 85%. And therefore, job creation is our next priority, creating jobs for the Liberian people. So after job creation, our next priority is agriculture. We are a country, after 170 years, that do not fear ourselves. Last year alone, we imported over 160 million United States dollars in rice import, and total food imports was over $280 million. These are things we can do for ourselves. We should be producing rice to feed ourselves, and my commitment is that by the end of my first term in office, we will be self-sufficient in rice production. And within education, we are focused on vocational training, teachers training, and adult education. But we have to educate our young people because, again, that's how we can help them create jobs. That's how we can train farmers. And so these things are all linked together. And our final priority in terms of the what's is health. Because you can have good infrastructure, you can have a good job, you can feed yourself, you can have great education, but if you don't have your health, it doesn't matter. And so health is our 5th priority, and there we're focused on primary health care and preventive health care. So those are the what's we'll do for our people, for the Liberian people. How are we going to do these things? The first how is we want to engage Liberians differently in the transformation of our country. We call this hearts and minds. How do we get all Liberians to participate in the changes that are required? We're going to use arts and music and culture and reconciliation and religion. All of these things, we will be deliberate in using these things to engage us as a people in this transformation process. And so we're doing some work on how we can make those things happen. The next how is that we're going to find the money. We have to find the resources, the money, to do all of the what's I mentioned earlier. And the way we'll find the money is first, we'll go after waste in government. You know, we spend a lot of money on things that we don't need, or we pay too much for things that we do need. So for example, I believe the vehicles we buy for our government officials, we spend too much money on that. We should reduce the number of vehicles, and we should buy less expensive vehicles for our government officials. We need to reduce how much they make so we can pay teachers and civil servants and police officers and the military officers and healthcare workers, people who actually do the work. We need to pay them more money and reduce the gap between those at the top and those who actually do the work. The other way we'll find the money is going after this thing called corruption. You know, corruption has been the bane of our country. Is the primary reason why we are as underdeveloped as we are today. And we will aggressively go after corruption. The first thing we'll do is we will appoint a corruption czar, a minister in charge of corruption in the presidency that will coordinate all of the agencies that are meant to find corrupt officials. Secondly thing we'll do is we'll make sure we are giving the resources, the money, the right people, the right logistics to the anti-corruption agencies, the LACC, Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission, the General Accounting Office, the Public Procurement and Concessions Commission. We will make sure they got the right resources to go after corrupt officials. After that, when we find people who are corrupt, we will prosecute them, we will put them in jail, and we'll seize their assets. It will not be good enough for you just to resign. So those are the things we will do to really go after corruption. I have committed that I will not take a salary. The salary that is paid the president, I will allocate it towards helping to fight corruption. That's how important I think it is to us. And then the other way we'll find the money is we'll make sure we're getting full value, the full monies we're due from our natural resources. We'll look to exploit other natural resources so we can get the funds required to fund healthcare, to fund infrastructure, to create jobs, etc., etc. So finding the money is the second how. The next how is we want to create a government of inclusion. We want all sections of our country to be represented in the government. We want opposition political parties to be in government. Because we believe that having a government inclusion will help all of us make the right decisions. It will make sure that we're spreading the resources of our country across the entire country. And then the last two hows, one is growing the private sector. We will focus on growing the private sector so Liberians can primarily benefit from that growth. No longer to Liberian business people be spectators to our economy. And we want to actively support Liberianization and encourage and provide credit and other facilities to Liberians.
Play music. Can you hear us? Moses?
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
Right.
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Right. So we know we've been here for the 1.5 hour mark. We want to say thanks to our listening audience. Before we go, Mark, do you want to say something before the 1 minute finish?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say thanks to the many Liberians that follow the show. And this is not about you or I, it's about Mr. Cummings' message and finding a better person to lead Liberia. And I want to say thanks to Brother Moses. But today's my bad day. I'm tired today. Yeah, it's my bad day. So thanks, Brother Moses, for the show.
Thank you, Mark. And I just want to say to those who follow us, thanks for listening to us. We're here every Tuesday. You can follow us on the Bottomline Liberia or Bottomline Discussion online. We're also on YouTube. We're on the online radio 24/7. It's called the Bottomline. And Moses, thanks for this. Thanks for the show. And hope to hook up with you next week. And I shall be in Liberia soon. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Paul.
So
we off, right?
No, Moses is just leaving the studio, so I guess, yeah. So, guys, bro, it was a good show. You heard from your listening audience in Liberia. A lot of people are passionate about this war and economic crown code to be settled, but people don't know how that's going to happen. And Mr. Cummings lately, he made when Prince Johnson attacked Charlene on one of his puppet that he usually use, there was a CPP letter that he sent out, and that letter said that if the legislatures, when Mr. Cummings become president, if they don't enforce that, he will use executive order to bring the war and economic code to Liberia. So it's something that is written and people could hold him to that. So, bro, I think it was a great show, and I don't know what you take. What's your whole overview of the show today?
Yeah, Paul, we've been having this discussion before that Mr. Cummings, he cannot be like, the coach, the player, the captain, and
The
the doctor
spectator.
at the same time on the team.
Yeah.
So he got to be in one place at a time. If he want to do everything at the same time, and he, Mr. Cummings, he always said this: you got to start with this one this year. Next year, you start with the other one. The next following year, like that, you're gonna, have a lot accomplished. But you want to be everywhere at the same time. At the end of the day, you're not going to get anything accomplished. So he's the own, how to call it, say, prescription. So, but I believe in Mr. Cummings. No matter what happens, he's gonna get something done. Be it the war crime code, he's gonna get it done. Then the next thing follow the economic crime code, he's gonna get it done. But as I said, let me not, repeating myself. Today is my bad day, Brother Paul. You can get nothing good out of me. But I want to tell you thank you for the show today.
Today is your bad day, so we can't get nothing out of you. So what you need to do when the weather is like this, drink a nice hot cup of tea. It can build your energy back. Then you can go to sleep and say, you know what? I had a discussion today. The tea woke me up. Or if you can drink Jack Daniel and me, you just take a sip, you will be absolutely fine. And
Trust me, if you're in Sweden, you won't want to go around Jack Daniel yesterday, Paul. The weather is crazy, Paul. Yeah, the weather crazy, bro. I wish
right,
I were on your end there where the weather cool.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
the
the,
show
the
was nice,
weather
but
too.
you and brother Moses, you kept the show, alive. It was nice.
Yeah, thank you. I
But brother
mean,
Paul, if we go into the war crime code, right?
yeah.
And we stay on air, right?
Yeah, we're still on air.
Brother Paul, if we go into the war crime code, do you think America is innocent?
Well, my man,
America
everybody,
is partly responsible for what happened to Liberia, my brother.
my man, we know our some, but the thing is, what painful in the whole thing, those that are supposed to make the decision are the people, they are the main perpetrator that how
Thank
can
you.
you so this is a situation we face with. And that
And,
is how do we get these people out for
and
good decision to be made?
And there where you and I were saying the same thing, but
Yeah,
maybe in different dimension. For example, the people in Sierra Leone, their will were respected.
yeah,
The people in Rwanda, their will were respected. But the people in Liberia, they tend to spectator. And who will were respected? The perpetrator will were respected.
yeah,
So that's how that's the reason we end up with this thing, Brother Paul.
yeah. Wow. Anyway, bro, we had a good show. It was good to be here. We're back again on Friday with another edition. Jamal will be here on Friday. Linfa will be here on Friday. The panelists will be here on Friday.
Yeah,
Next
let's
week,
get let's get off
next week
camera. I just want to
Tuesday.
ask you one or two things.
Yeah, next week Tuesday we should have a guest on the platform or the Tuesday program in Liberia. So looking forward to that. So based on that, I would say thanks to our audience for following us today. It was a good show, and we'll be back here on Friday. You can also follow us on the online radio. The Bottom Line online radio is 24/7, and you can catch on YouTube, on Instagram and Twitter as well. So after the show, people are going to follow. Usually, people follow after the show. So on this note, I want to leave this beautiful. I don't know whether it's a gospel music. It's a kind of Liberian music, but it's very funny. This guy, he played a very nice song, and we don't have copyright to this song. I want to play this, and then we'll say goodbye to everybody until we meet again next Friday.
Sleepy on duty. My patients are crying, they having conversation. My patients are dying, they busy chatting on Facebook. Anything you do in this world, you will get your reward. Be happy, I want to hear you be happy. All the instructors, listen to me. You make the test hard for the students to fail. You give it grace to the student because of money. You give it grace to the student to sleep with them. Anything you do in this world, you will get your reward. Oh, my bosses, listen to me. The women who are coming in your office to find job, in order to get the job, you have to sleep with them. 99 for road, 1 day for master. Anything you do in this world, you will get a reward. Oh, my mothers, give me your gifts. It's suffering the people, children who are living with you. For you tell the parents, I will send them to school. But they are the breadwinner in your family. You send them on the streets, selling market every day. Anything you do in this world, you will get your reward. The citizens work together and put you in position. At the end of the day, you frustrate their effort. When the citizen crown to go, what you expect? Your reward. I want to hear reward, man. Some women struggle very hard to get their money. You come to them in the name of relationship. You lavish your money and run away. When a woman crowns you up, what you expect? Your reward. The parents who brought you on earth, you despise them. You disgrace them. You frustrate them. When your parents crown you up, what you expect? Your reward. We have people to hear you. You're running behind, marry me, what you expect? Your reward. You're running behind, marry with me, what you expect? Your reward. You're lying to the people every day, what you expect? Your reward. If you don't talk, now you are talking to. You're cheating on everyone, what you expect? Your reward.